Hi, everybody. I'd like to call this meeting to order. In accordance with the State Sunshine Law of New Jersey, adequate notice of this meeting of the Hillsborough Township Board of Education was provided on March 8th, 2018 to the Hillsborough Beacon and the Courier News. May I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Bogoshevsky?
Here.
Ms. Santafonte?
Here.
Mr. Cooper?
Here.
Mr. Gillette?
Here.
Mrs. Harris?
Here.
Mr. Pulsifer? Dr. Soussan?
Here.
Mr. Trujillo?
Here.
Mrs. Haas?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Great. Can everybody rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. We have two sets of minutes to be approved. First is the executive session minutes from our last meeting on February 12th.
So moved.
February 26th.
26.
Alrighty.
Sorry about that.
Okay. May I have a
So
motion?
moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on the minutes? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Motion passes.
Great. Approval of the regular meeting minutes of February 26th. May I have a motion and second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Motion passes.
Okay. We received some correspondence on various subjects, and they have been answered. And now we go to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam President. Originally, we had students from both Woodfern and Hillsborough elementary schools were invited to come tonight to be the focus of our spotlight on students. However, we are under a winter weather advisory for tonight, so we thought it would be best if the kids stayed home and that hopefully we can invite them to a future board meeting. That being said, I do have some wonderful news that I'd like to share with the board and the community about the great things going on in our district. Last month, the Hillsborough High School varsity girls basketball team started March Madness a day early. The Raiders, a 16 seed in Central Jersey Group 4 tournament in East Brunswick, knocked out number 1 seed East Brunswick in the first round of play by a score of 45-41. The Raiders went on to the quarterfinals, eventually succumbing to Hunterdon and Central in the tournament. However, congratulations to our Raiders on a wonderful upset victory to the first seed. Fantastic game and a fantastic season. Hillsborough Middle School Student Club AWARE, which stands for Advocating Wellness Through Addiction Resources and Education, will present the AWARE Fair, a night of information and conversation on Thursday, March 22nd, in the Hillsborough Middle School Commons in the main cafeteria. The free and fun program is for parents and students in grades 5 through 12 and will focus on all areas of wellness. The event marks the 20th year that the Hillsborough Middle School peer leaders have sponsored a family night of dialogue, which includes a skit performed by the AWARE members. This year's skit is entitled Wellness TV. I hope that many of our Aughton Road Middle School and high school families will be able to attend, and thank you to our AWARE students and Mrs. Anna Mailer, the Students Assistant Counselor at the middle school, for presenting this fantastic evening. Congratulations also goes out to several of our Hillsborough High School students who have been accepted to present a breakout session at the Dare to Dream Conference. This is a conference for and by students with disabilities. This conference highlights strategies and information to prepare high school students with disabilities for college and career readiness. Each conference features a keynote presentation from accomplished students and young adults with disabilities who have demonstrated exemplary self-advocacy and leadership skills. Our high school students will be presenting a breakout session entitled, quote, Social Media Post Positive. Congratulations to our Hillsborough students, and thank you to our staff members who have worked to prepare our students to share with the community in this important event. Congratulations also goes out to 2 Hillsborough High School wrestlers who earned individual medals at the 2018 NJSIAA State Wrestling Championship. Anthony Donadio placed 7th in the state at 126 pounds, and Kevin Faulkner placed 8th at 160 pounds. Let's give both Anthony and Kevin a big round of applause. Tremendous job. This past weekend, Pippin, performed by the Hillsborough High School Theater, opened to a packed house. From the performance on stage to the musicians in the pit to the students behind the scenes, the show was simply wonderful. Thank you to the staff members as well as the parents and community members who donated countless hours to make this show possible. Seats for this coming weekend show on March 16th and March 17th are still available and can be purchased through the link on our district website located at www.htps.us. Let's give all of the kids who participated in Pippin a big round of applause. And that's not all in terms of theater. Also on stage this coming weekend will be Hillsborough Middle School students performing Shrek the Musical. Tickets can also be purchased on the link that I just mentioned or at the door. Shows will be held on March 16th, 17th, 18th, 23rd, and 24th. Break a leg to the Hillsborough High School Music Theater Troupe. I'm sorry?
That's the middle school.
And it is at the middle school. That's correct. Thank you. Although last week was cut short due to weather, Hillsborough High School spent the week recognizing the diversity of its students and staff with a week-long celebration. Diversity Week was held to celebrate the uniqueness of the school's 2,300 students and nearly 250 teachers and staff members. During lunch periods, students had the opportunity to learn and share what makes them different. Some differences students were invited to learn more about included cultural backgrounds, physical challenges, family history, or sexual orientation. Hillsborough High School student clubs and honor society, including the Spanish Honor Society, Gay Straight Alliance, Diversity Council, and Sources of Strength, spent months planning the events and activities for the week. The goal of the week was for students to understand, accept, and promote diversity in all of its forms at Hillsborough High School. Thank you to the students and club advisors who spent time sharing information and resources with the high school community. Thank you also to the members of Borough Safe who were present during lunch periods to share resources and information to our students. And finally, this week is Girl Scout Week in Hillsborough, as well as around the world. Recently, Hillsborough was presented with the President's Award in recognition of all the great things that happen in Girl Scouts here in our community. The Girl Scouts will also be presented with a proclamation by Mayor McCauley this week in appreciation of all the wonderful things that the Girl Scouts do in our community. Thank you and congratulations to the Hillsborough Girl Scouts. And that's all I have to present.
Great. Okay. I actually wanted to talk about some of the things, but Jordan's already covered it. I just want to thank the two teachers that I read in their classes for on Read Across America Day, Mrs. Guzman, grade 1, and Mrs. Commune, grade 3 and 4 at Amsterdam School. Had a really good time in their classes. Robo Raiders had a very successful pasta dinner on Saturday night. Last Tuesday, a group of us attended a Rutgers Labor Management Collaboration Conference, and I sent you all an email about that. Last Friday, Community Alliance meeting and the Sources of Strength and Diversity lunch events. I actually went to that. It was awesome. And the kids were very engaged with it, and kids were signing pledges and wallpapering the cafeteria walls with their pledges, and that was very touching. And Pippin, I went to see on Saturday night, incredible, professional acting, dancing, singing. It's got all of it, and we really need to support our kids by attending all of these events, and unfortunately next weekend they're scheduled against the middle school Shrek performance, so we need the whole community to come out to both of them so that both of them have a full house. So I'll send out the vibes for that. But really support our kids because they do an incredible job. And that's all I have to say because we're trying to get out of here before it snows. Anyway, moving on to comments from the board. And we'll follow that with comments from the public. So I'll start with comments from the board. Any comments?
Oh, I just have a couple quick questions. I know you guys want to get out of here. So.
Was I too subtle?
I've narrowed it down from 20 to 3.
What's that?
I said I've narrowed it down from 20 questions to 3 questions.
Good.
Okay. Basically, I was just wondering, Dr. Shift, if you could just take a minute and go over what happens when a student gets caught vaping in school versus, I guess, like marijuana versus tobacco. I know there's a lot of questions milling around with the parents and about the $250 fine. I know
Sure.
we talked briefly in HR, but I don't think a lot of people understand what it takes to get fined and the different types of in-school suspension and who they need to meet with.
Yes, thank you. We changed our policy recently, the past couple of months, to identify a vaping device as drug paraphernalia. That was the big change that our district adopted not that long ago. As a result of that, any child that has a vaping device on them will be sent out for drug testing. And if the drug testing comes back positive for that child, they are then required to go to 5 counseling sessions with the SAC. They have a 5-day in-school suspension, and then they have a 30-day after-school activity suspension also. For a child who does not test positive but has the device on them, they will receive a 3-day in-school suspension. There is no need at that point to go to the SAC for counseling, and there's no suspension of after-school activities. As far as the summons, which is $250 for first offense, $500 for second offense, $1,000 for first offense, it is treated as if someone was smoking on school property. So that means that the school resource officer who would issue the summons would either have to observe it directly or see it on video surveillance, or the child would have to admit to it, and then they would be issued the summons.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
And then my other question is, I was just wondering how we go about, about the incident that happened at the high school last week about the intruder.
Incident last week about an intruder.
Wasn't there an intruder that entered the high school? I was told something about that.
No, we had a person that entered in at the end of the school day that was escorted out of the school.
Oh, okay.
But there wasn't an intruder in the school during time. There wasn't any threat to children or anything else like that. If there was a threat or there was something that occurred involving anything that would put our kids at risk, we would put out notification and do what we need to do.
Okay, and then my last question to you, the check, the generosity check from Duke's Farms, the $51,000, we received it in December. So do we have a plan on what exactly we're going to use that money for?
This was the payment in lieu of taxes that was done that way. Mr. Mahmood, I think we talked a little bit about journaling that into our revenue, but I don't think we had a particular plan, but I'll defer to you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Schiff. No, Ms. Bogoshevsky, we did receive the money, as you said, in December, but the money has not been allotted for any particular cause at the moment, or wasn't put into any appropriation. So we have the money in revenue, but the board has not discussed what to do with that money.
Can I just ask a question back? Just to be clear, that money is a payment in lieu of taxes, which used to be money that was included in the taxes. That was, I believe, the difference between when that property had a 65,000 square foot house on it versus when it's flat land, which is assessed a lot less. So I'm not really clear that that's extra money. In fact, it may be zero or, a wash or less than we would have been getting if the taxes were still. Is it more or less?
Everybody else paid a little more to make up for the 51,000.
It was
We still
170.
raised the tax levy 2%. So
This
we
was more.
collected as much as we would have before. Everybody else, every other house paid $3 extra last year, or whatever it is, that makes up 14,000 houses or whatever it is.
But it's additional, right, Greg? It would be
So
considered.
it would be additional.
So the thing,
Yeah, it is additional.
so
It is additional.
so it's on top of our taxes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not sure I really view it that way, but I'll take your word for it, that's fine. Okay, Is there anything else? Do you have any
No,
more?
no,
You're
no,
good?
I'm good.
Everybody else? Okay.
I have comments. So I have good news to share. I was actually at National History Day this weekend, and Aris represented Hillsborough on Saturday in Princeton University for National History Day's regional competition. And I wanted to just recognize and thank Mrs. Seller and Mrs. Patrick because we've been just so lucky to have them as our advisors for National History Day. My daughter, who's now in 9th grade, was in the inaugural group at Aris to do National History Day, and my son was in the group this year. And although he and his friends did not move on, I just wanted to congratulate all the students who did move on, but thanks to Mrs. Seller and Mrs. Patrick, and actually also Mrs. Harmson was there from the middle school, so it was pretty awesome.
Okay, thank you. That's a yay. Okay, are we ready for public input from the public? First, I'll take any public input on the budget. Let me just say that we very much welcome input from the public. There are 2 times during board meetings that the public is invited to speak. One time is right now that you may speak about any item that's listed on the agenda before the board votes. Towards the end of the meeting, there's another public forum to address any topic. Before you make your comment, please state your name and address. There's a 3-minute time limit per speaker. Please understand our public forums are not structured as question and answer sessions, but rather are offered as opportunities to share your thoughts with the board. In instances where the board believes that there's a misunderstanding or an inaccuracy, the board president or superintendent will address the comment. There may be times when a member of the public makes a comment or asks a question about personnel or hiring decisions. New Jersey statutes do not permit the board to discuss personnel issues in public session. So with those ground rules, anybody wants to speak, line up, please.
Jane Satz, 101 Devonshire Court. This is something that I brought up maybe 1 or 2 years ago. We have a really diverse community, and many of our students have parents who may not be comfortable with the English language. And I think it'd be great if we could look into, investigate. I don't know if you already have. I haven't heard about it since I brought it up, about having translation services for parents for parent conferences or anything similar to that. So that, because as a former teacher, I would have maybe, in all the years that I taught, maybe 2 students that came with their parents or an older sibling who spoke on behalf of the parent that did not speak English. And especially if it was a student speaking, I mean, I might have been saying, well, Joey's not really doing his homework, and the kid's saying, Mrs. Stats thinks I'm a great student. So, but that for those 2 students, who knows how many other students didn't have a parent that would have come to a parent conference, if there was some kind of translation service available. And I think we all agree that parent input is really important and their involvement in their students' education, and this would be something we could look into. It's something that hospitals provide, especially something that where they could use a telephone, and if we could at least look into the cost of it and the feasibility of it, I think it'd be a great idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any comment? Okay, any other public input on the budget? Any other public input on the action agenda? No? Okay. Moving right along, I'm going to turn it over to the superintendent for the education.
Thank you. I ask for the board's consideration of the following motions under the area of education: to approve travel and related expenses, field trip destinations, staff members to assist at evening kindergarten registration.
Okay, may I have a motion for items A1 through 8.1 through 8.3?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on the education agenda? Seeing none, roll call.
Surely. Ms. Bogoshevsky?
Yes.
Ms. Santafonte?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Mrs. Harris?
Yes.
Dr. Swasan?
Yes.
Ms. Trujillo?
Yes.
Mrs. Hobbs?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Human resources?
Thank you. I ask for the board's consideration of the following motions that I'm recommending under the area of human resources: to approve the retirements of Ann Cucchiera, who is a special ed teacher at Sunnymead School, who has worked with us since September 1 of 1989. Phenomenal. Bob Gill, teacher of science at Hillsborough Middle School, who's been with us for even longer, since 1980.
Scary.
Kathleen Pisciata. Kathleen is a teacher of special education who has been with us since 1994. And Ruth Stanley, school nurse of Woodfern, who has been with us since January 1 of 2001. And I know I speak for the full board in thanking all of these wonderful educators for the time that they spent in our district, adding value, and truly remarkable. I mean, we're talking about close to 40 years for some of these teachers. Just tremendous, tremendous. Also approved. Approve revised contracts, rescind the contracts, approve contract changes as listed, transfers and changes in assignments, leaves of absences, and approve the appointments of long-term subs, instructional assistants, coach, and substitutes as attached. Also to approve the appointment of a math teacher, as well as mentors and extra period coverage.
Okay, may I have a motion for items 9.1 through 9.10? Thank you, thank you. Questions or comments on the human resources agenda? We're good? Oh, Lorraine?
I just wanted to say really quickly, I know we congratulated all of the teachers, but I wanted to point out that Mr. Gill, I had the pleasure of attending two of the middle school 8th grade trips that Mr. Gill ran for so many years. And he was so enjoyable to chaperone for, and the kids so enjoyed that trip. So I want, obviously we have teachers in our district who go above and beyond every day. But I wanted to personally thank Mr. Gill for making those trips so wonderful for our 8th graders. I don't know who's taking it over, but they have very big shoes to fill.
Yeah, big shoes.
Well, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, so we'll go for the roll call.
Surely. Ms. Bogoshevsky?
Yes.
Ms. Santafonte?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Mrs. Harris?
Yes.
Dr. Swasan?
Yes.
Ms. Trujillo?
Yes.
Mrs. Haas?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, operations.
Thank you, Madam President. I ask for the board's consideration of the following two motions under the area of operations to approve line item transfers and transportation contracts.
Okay, that's just two items. So may I have a motion for
So moved.
10.1 and
Second.
10.2? Thank you, thank you. Okay, any questions or comments on the operations agenda? Okay. Roll call.
Surely. Ms. Bogoshevsky?
Yes.
Ms. Santafonte?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Mrs. Harris? Dr. Swasan?
Yes.
Ms. Trujillo?
Yes.
Mrs. Haas?
Okay.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Then we have a bunch of informational items. And I guess we're back up to comments from the board or public on old business. Are there any further comments for the board? Okay, you guys just like coming out on a potentially snowy and icy night? Well, we're happy to have you, so thank you for coming. Okay, so I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? We're done. Half hour.